Hey everyone, welcome back to part 6 of Getting Psyched for Information Literacy. In today's session, we're going to be talking about the different types of research. So this will include original or primary research, literature reviews, systematic reviews, and systematic reviews including meta-analyses. So the first thing I want to point out is original or primary research. This is pretty much a research paper that somebody has done when they are doing an experiment on something. So I pulled up an example of an original research article, and some ways that I can tell that this is an original research article is that I'm being shown that there's a methods section, and I'm also being shown that there's participants and who the participants are, the materials that they're using. It's going into a lot of detail about what they're doing. They're sharing with me the results from their experiment, and I'm just getting a whole wealth of data that they're providing and their discussion about what they learned and also limitations that happened during their research. So essentially, if I were to try to replicate this study, I could if I wanted to. So that's how I know that it is an original or primary research study. Another thing that you might see is in the metadata of the article, you can often see it classified as an empirical study. So if you see that, that's another indicator that it's most likely primary research. The next type of research that we're going to be looking at is a literature review. A literature review is a synthesis of a review of many different subtopics of around the same topic, but many subtopics, and it's kind of fit together like puzzle pieces. And what the researcher is trying to do is find out where there might be gaps in the overall knowledge, the knowledge base. And they're identifying those gaps and trying to find where additional research might need to occur. Additional, maybe primary research needs to occur. So it again helps you get a better understanding of a larger issue, but it also at the same time acknowledges the gap. So here's an example of a review article. So if you're looking through, what you're going to find are a lot of citations to other articles. But as you scroll through it, you're going to get mostly citations. You're not going to find any kind of experiment or study in a literature review. So there is a literature review. Next, we're going to be looking at a systematic review. A systematic review is also a review of literature, but it's much more structured. And if you were to look at the full article, which unfortunately this one is not a full article, but based on our experience with interlibrary loan, we know we could get it really quickly if we wanted. It might at first glance look like a primary research article because it's going to have a method, but the method is actually only telling us how they conducted their research, how they got their results. So they're going to be telling us what databases that they searched in, the method, they looked in PubMed, they looked in PsycInfo, CINAHL. Those were the databases they used. They might tell us the words they looked at. They're going to look at the age ranges. Again, it's just a very detailed explanation of the search that they did and what criteria they were looking at, so that when they're pulling the information, they're getting very similar studies. They have a very structured criteria of what they're looking at. And so they're gathering all previously published primary research, because the more area is published on, the more the primary research has similar studies or replicated studies that can be kind of investigated in these types of systematic literature reviews. And so then researchers can use these and use them as evidence in their findings. And then lastly, these systematic reviews, because they're so systematic and they're pulling such similar data, they can they can even go a step further and provide what's called a meta-analysis. And as I mentioned in the last one, as you can see, it has this method, results, discussion, data availability. It's not performing, like I mentioned, it's not performing primary research. This is the meta-analysis. It is taking previous research that's already been done and reanalyzing the data together. So that's why it was so important for the systematic review to be so structured and so strict, because they have to pull information that's similar enough to actually compare. So that's how these reviews can be very helpful, because in the finding of this meta-analysis, they actually found that serotonin, people who are depressed, their serotonin levels actually aren't that much different from the serotonin levels of people who are not depressed. So it's interesting how, from people doing primary research and doing these experiments, how they were able to use multiple studies that were similar enough to combine them together and use a meta-analysis to make this conclusion. So this was a little bit of an overview of all of the different types of research. Well, not all the different types of research, but several types of research that pop up when you are in different databases or research tools. I hope you found this helpful, but again, if you have any questions at any point, feel free to reach out. Thanks.